Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Corrine. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. I am in today. We are going to play with some Distress Oxides. And we're going to do a technique called ghost stamping. This is actually more ghost painting. But what it does is it uses the properties of any reactive ink. So I'm going to be using oxides, but this should work with your distress inks. If you happen to have Hero Arts reactive inks, like, sorry, those are upside down. Hero Hues reactive inks by Hero Arts, those will also work. So anything that is a water reactive ink. So when you flick water on it, it bleaches basically. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put down the color and then we're going to take some of it away to create this really cool technique. I saw somebody doing this on a beautiful, really detailed, it wasn't detailed, but it was a huge flower. I think it was like a poinsettia or a, I don't know, crocus, something. Anyway, it was really gorgeous. Now, fortunately, I don't have very many flower stamps. I only have a few. I'm going to demo that on one of them. But first of all, we're going to play with some inks. I'm going to show you how easy it is to use a Distress Oxide to get a really beautiful background. So we're going to start with that and inking it up. And the reason why we're starting with that is because you need to give time, because we're going to emboss, use some heat embossing, but you have to give it time in order for it to dry. And we're going to heat emboss because we want to create these nice little wells so that when you're using the water and lifting with the water, you're not getting it all over your paper, because obviously then you would end up bleaching the whole thing, instead of in the very specific areas that you want it to. Okay. All right. So that's what we're going to play with. And this is pretty subtle. I think when I do the other one that I have stamped and ready to go, I think you guys are going to be really, it's going to look really cool because it'll lighten, excuse me, there are deeper tones than the greens here that I used. But I thought this stamp, as an example, would work really well if you don't have a flower stamp. Basically anything that has an outline that you can go in and remove some of the color will work. Okay, so first of all, let's play with some inks. Okay, so I'm just going to pull out, this is 80 pound, I was going to say classic, it's not classic because I don't really use that. This is 80 pound accidental cake, and you want a really good smooth paper for inking. Using oxides also really helps out because they're very smooth, they blend like butter, and you get a lot of color down, because that's what you're going to want. You need to put a lot of color down in order to be able to lift and bleach your color. Okay, so I'm going to ink up, and the colors that I'm using, this is Salvage Patina. Okay, and I'm just going to go in. So this is, again, just showing you how to blend your colors. I did a video with Distress Oxides and Distress Inks showing the blending and the differences between the two. Of course, the Distress Oxides have, because they're oxidized, so they have a bit of a kind of like a chalky finish. So they're beautiful colors, but they do have that chalky finish because, of course, they have a pigment property to them, so they sit on top of your cardstock. Okay, so in order to get a really nice blend, I'm going to make sure that I'm bringing this up into, so I've almost covered about half of the card, but this is a very light coating here, okay? Because that's where I'm going to add my next color too. And so I'm going to put this to the side, cover that up so I can stick my finger in it. And you can see that I've got quite a bit down here on the bottom. So I'm going to wipe that up with a bit of a baby wipe here. Okay, now I'm going to come in with my next color, which is Uncharted Mariner. And put my brush over here to the side. And I put another magnet down. I don't technically need the magnets yet because I haven't got ink down in this place here, but it's a good practice to get into the habit of doing that. So now I'm going to ink up my brush. Come in. I want to lay down as much color as I can. I do want this paper to be quite saturated. Again, that's why I'm just doing this. I'm not showing you the stamping and the embossing and everything, because I did have to heat it. I let it dry for about 10 minutes, and then I also had to use my heat tool on it in order to get it to dry enough that my embossing powders were only sticking in the places I wanted them to stick in, not all over the place. Okay. Whoop, hand cramp, hand cramp. Of course I would get a hand cramp now. I've been doing, I don't know if you just watched the last video that I just put out, which was the using the ombre ink pads. That's going to come out. And then this was the last one. So I did a lot of, not blending, but a lot of stamping in them. So my hand is just cramping just a little bit here. So I'm just going to give it a little wave here if you see things moving around. Okay, so I've got a pretty good color down of my Uncharted Mariner, and I've got a decent blend here, but I'm going to take what was left on my salvage patina on the brush. I don't really need to re-ink, but I'm just going to come in here. Oh, sorry, I'm getting like the claw hand. Do you ever get that when you're, I don't know if I'm dehydrated, I need some magnesium, whatever, but yeah. So anytime I'm going to try and hold something, it's not liking it. Okay, so I'm just going to take this and I'm going to come back up into the Uncharted Mariner with what's already on my brush, basically. Okay, there we go. So you can see now I have a really nice transition. And move that back up into frame there. I have a nice transition between the lighter tone to the darker tone, almost giving me a third color here. Okay, that's what we want. That's what you're looking for. Is there should be a blending between the lighter to the darker, giving you almost what looks like a third tone to it. Okay, so I'm going to lift that up. I'm going to move that out of the way. You can see I've got a little bit of overage. So I'm going to come in with my baby wipe and wipe it up. Now what I want to do is now I'm going to use my magnets to hold this down, because if I use my fingers, the oils and the sweat from my fingers will react with the oxides that are already on there. Okay. So I finished with it. Well, I'm not finished with the Mariner, but I'm going to move that to the side. Now, the last color that I'm going to bring in is Villainous Potion. So it's this really beautiful, deep, purpley color. Okay. Load up my brush. And you can see here, I'm going to hold my magnets. That's where I'm going to put my hand down. And now I'm going to bring this in. Moving in circles. And I'm starting off, just slightly off of my page, off of my cardstock. Re-inking, coming in, making those tones nice and deep on the far side and lighter as I'm moving into the blue, the Uncharted Mariner, of course, right? So I'm adding as much color as I can down here on the far right, and then allowing my brush to kind of push that moisture into the blue. That's essentially what you're doing, is you're getting it saturated enough that your two colors, much like when you're watercoloring or ink blending, that your two colors are going to come together and kind of meld together. Yeah? That's why until you're good, which I am not at ink blending, you really want to be following your color wheels and making sure that you're using colors that you know will actually blend together. Like you wouldn't want to put an orange next to a purple because you're going to get brown. There is a way to do that, and I highly recommend watching Christina Werner videos. She does some beautiful blending videos. Okay, so now I've got my dark purple, but it's a pretty harsh line here. Sorry, I'm going to try and move that back in. So now what I've got is I've still got a little bit of the Uncharted Mariner on this brush, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring that up and kind of just, actually, I'm going to move my magnets here a little bit. Need some space to work. And I'm just going to kind of soften that edge by taking what's on the brush and moving into the purple. And then what happens is this brush will also pick up some of the ink from the purple and make it more wet. That's not a great way of describing it, but it does add more saturation. And by doing that, it helps to move that ink in and around there. Okay. There, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to put my brushes to the side here, get them out of the way so that I don't go and stick my hands in them. Pop up my. Okay, so I'm going to wipe up my mess here so that it's not transferring to anything. like my desk. There we go. All right. All right. Now, check out, that is a pretty good blend. Look at that, like nice sky, right? Like, so this could be, could do this like as a mountain range. So if I could stamp some mountains on here. I'd have to emboss them kind of thing, but with the nice blue sky, could also do that. Could also do something like this where it's almost like a sunset. This could be a really nice ocean. Beautiful colors, really nice. So I'm quite happy with that. This is what I did earlier. So I took this stamp. So this is the same thing, same colors. Okay. I just trimmed it down. So this is 4 by 5.5. So this is going to go on the front of an A2 card. Okay. I just trimmed it down a little bit. So it's the exact same panel. I just trimmed a 1/4 inch off each side. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, you can use a paintbrush if you like, or I'm going to be using a water brush. Okay. So it's got a reservoir in here. This one's by Arteza. Came with my fancy new crayon markers that I got, which I really love. So it's got a water reservoir in here, and it's just the paintbrush tip kind of thing. What you're also going to need is, I'm going to put a baby wipe here that I can kind of wipe my brush off of, because I don't want to, as I'm lifting the lighter blue or the darker purple, I don't want to bring that color, because it's going to stick into my brush. I don't want to bring that color into this a little bit more. Without flipping the color. I don't want to bring this darker color into this lighter color. Okay, so I'm going to start with the lighter color, actually, obviously, and I'm also going to be using a paper towel because I want to be able to dry it up. So if I'm going to give this a bit of a squeeze here. So I've got a bit of a pool of water, not a lot, but a little bit, and I'm going to pick this up. Now I could also just squeeze from here, but I like to have a little bit more control over it. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to paint this water. This is why it's distress painting is what I would call it, or oxidized painting. And I'm going to go in and lift. Let's see if we can see that. You see the difference there? I'm going to do some more and then bring it up and show you. So when I'm just painting this water, I'm just picking up using the water in the areas within the stamped area. That didn't make sense. Sorry, guys. I'm just using my paintbrush into like the petals of this flower. And that's the area that I want to bleach. I'm going to keep the color around it. And also the other thing that's very interesting is, sorry, excuse me. The longer you leave the water on, the more of a bleaching effect you will get. So if you leave it sit on there without picking it up, okay, and the other thing too is you want to make sure that when you're resting your hand here, okay, that you're not resting it with a white or a water spot, because that will then, of course, pick up your color. So it kind of defeats the purpose of having the color there. Get that up. All right, now I'm going to start moving into the slightly deeper tones here, which hopefully then will allow you guys to see a bit more of the bleaching effect. Oh yeah, there we go. That's good. Okay, let's do this one here. And I also want to do this one here. So I think what I'm going to do is on this particular flower, I'm going to pick and choose some of the shades. Let's see there. Okay, pick that up now. Can you see? Yeah, there we go. So you can see the difference between, this is the darker here, obviously. This is where I bleached it. So you can see that this is a different tone than the Salvage Patina up here. It's kind of got a white tinge to it. Now, in my particular flower, so I've got some shades where the petals are kind of folded over. So I want to try and keep those like a darker tone. I don't want to bleach those. There's a couple little petals in here. So I'm going to try and keep those like you can, I don't know if you can see that one right there, like that piece there, that piece there, this edge here. That way then I'm going to try and give it some depth, right? Because it's, you know, if I'm erasing all of it, I'm just getting like one tone, which I don't want to do, not erase, bleaching. So essentially, by doing this, I'm trying to pick up the color, not all of the color. And let's go. So there was a lot of detail on that, the green panel that I showed you, the one with the leaves and stuff like that. It took me, I don't know, 10 minutes to do that. So that's, I mean, that's not bad for time invested in card, I think. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but 10 minutes for a nice looking card. And then being able to just be like, oh yeah, cool. And then sticking a sentiment on it. I don't think that's too bad for a time frame. Pick that up. Yeah, a little bit more water to my palette here. Let's get this in. So if you wanted to use a paintbrush, obviously you could just have a cup of water and your paintbrush just sitting there and just continually drawing it out, right? So that's pretty simple. So again, I think I told you guys, this is just done on regular 80-pound cardstock. So it's not watercolor. I'm not adding a ton of water to this. So I don't really feel like I needed to use watercolor. You could if you wanted to, but then if you were going to do that, I would suggest using a stamp platform to stamp your image because you'll likely end up watercolor paper tends to have so much texture to it. It would be very difficult to get like a really good crisp stamped image, really. I'm just kind of deciding who else I want to add. Maybe like that. And here. So you can see here, it's starting to lift a lot more. I'm getting more color because this is a deeper tone now. So I'm kind of rubbing off a little bit, cleaning off the tip of my brush a little bit, just to make sure that I'm not transferring all of that tone and that water, that color into the next color thing. Because it will lift and get on your paintbrush a little bit. Maybe water brush, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you guys can see the tip of that. It's got a little bit of color. Not a lot, but a little bit. Oh, let's go. So the video that I saw this lady doing this, and I don't know who her name is. I didn't make note of it, but she had this gorgeous flower, and she just basically picked and choose. And I picked and choose. That's not good English. Anyway, she was just choosing different areas to bleach out, and that was how she was adding shades and highlight. And she did this beautiful. She embossed it. I think she used, if I recall correctly, she used silver to emboss it because she had used like shades of gray, like a black, so probably black soot and then like smoked hickory, like different shades of, yeah, blacks and grays. And then she's heat embossed it in silver as to like to do the shine and whatever to hold the edges and stuff. And so some she left full color, obviously, just in order to have those differing tones, etc. But it turned out just gorgeous. So let's do here. Getting into the villainous potion, mixing with the Uncharted Mariner. Pick up that color there. Very nice. Happy with that. And let's do this one here. So I just want to get this completed to the point where you guys can see how, yeah, just how interesting this kind of technique can be to give you that different depths and just taking, because basically your background is colored, which is really cool. So nothing's happening to the background, but it's like, how did you get that on there? What did you do to that to make it look like that? And that's one of the really cool properties of, obviously, of distress inks or water reactive inks. So I haven't tried it with them, but this should work with the Element inks by Lavinia as well, this particular technique. So distress inks, distress oxides. So these are oxides that I use, and that's mostly just because I really like to blend with the oxides. It's so much easier. I get really frustrated pretty easily with having to use the inks unless I'm using direct to paper, because it takes a lot of arm muscle and whatnot to put a lot of ink down. And you do want a fairly saturated paper so that you have enough to lift, right? You want to have enough color down there in order to lift. And so this is really bold when you've got like the darker colors, obviously. Those nice, bright, saturated. It's really cool. The purple here. So, and you can see here, like you can see how purple my brush is getting. So it is definitely picking up. It will lift some of that color. And bleach it with the water. Good. This one into here. I'd never really previously, like I've only ever just flicked water with my inks and my oxides. I've also used them for because anything water-based you can use for the threefer. Go and watch that video. I love doing a threefer because, again, sometimes it shows when I'm a lazy crafter because I do like to get as many cards out of one technique as I can. And that particular technique, the twofer, the threefer, you're basically doing preliminary kind of ink pressing. Um, and so you get multiple different colors, but you do have to use an ink that is water reactive, obviously, because it needs to reactivate to transfer between the two papers that you're using. And so when you do that, though, it's all done in your die cutting machine. So you don't get to see the reaction of the ink having the water added to it. And if you watch enough, like when you're painting here, you'll be like, oh, and you can see it starting to liven up, particularly with the oxides, because once you add water to them, you can see them actually oxidizing. Okay, look at that. Okay, so you've got the darker purple still right here, a little bit in the areas. Also, because I use clear embossing over top, so that's why you also want to ink your panel first, is because you'll get the color, and then I used clear embossing ink so that that color would still stay underneath there. So I'm still getting the shades of the dark purple. Then now with the bleached look, I'm going to add a little bit more water to this one here. Let it bleach out a little bit more to this one. A little bit more to this one here. Okay, now I'm going to squeeze that off because I want to add a little bit more to some of the blues here as well. Okay. That. Give it a bit of a dry. And I also want to, I'm going to squeeze a little bit of water out of my brush here because I want to make sure that it's clean for the next time I go to use it. And then I'm going to wipe it off. Actually, it's almost empty. Oh no, still put a bit of water in there. I thought it was almost empty. All right. Let's put it back on again. How cool is that? So it's a very different look. Now you could just simply stamp it and be done with it. Like you don't have to do any stamp and like do your ink blending, stamp, and then do the heat embossing and just leave it. Like it was quite pretty that way. But this is different, especially if you wanted to make like a set of cards. I think I need to add some right there. If you wanted to make a set of cards, let's say you wanted to do 2 or 3. Well, by adding the extra little detail, you could have 2. Let's say you were making 4 cards, you could have 2 that were just stamped like all of a sudden I'm having a total brain fart. You could have 2 that were just the ink blending and then stamped with the like the heat embossed kind of thing and just have them like that. And then you could have 2 that you went through and did this the painting lift kind of thing, this ink lift with bleaching or whatever, the distress painting we'll call it. Okay. So cool. Now to finish this so this one, obviously you can see my paper is quite wet. So I'm going to leave this to dry and I will finish the card. So I'm going to put that to the side because I don't want to put it on my card base because it'll just make my card base wet, which kind of seems silly, doesn't it? So I'm going to put this over here. So I will finish this one here. So I picked out a couple of card bases. So I've got this kind of linen yellow one, and I've got this bright green one. And I was trying them out. I think I like this darker like that. So this is with the green. This is, make sure you put it the right way. That's how it opens. Always make sure which way your card opens before you go and stick everything down. Huzzah. Okay, so that's with the yellow. I think I actually like it with the green. Right? Like that's cute. Okay, so I'm going to use the green. So I'm going to put that to the side here and pull out some adhesive with my cool new, well, not new. Well, I mean, technically it's still new. This, what is it called? The glue press. I'm really loving this because I'm not using a lot of tape runner anymore. I'll still use things like soup wang, so the double-sided adhesive and things like that. If I need to use a strong adhesive, but if I don't, I'm now trying to just use liquid adhesive now. Mostly I like the little bit of wiggle playroom that I get with it to move it around like this because I didn't have that centered very well. So I continue to kind of wolf that up there. There we go. And shows it. That done a bit now. Okay, there we go. Squidge of glue there. Now, because this was, I did use a little bit of water on it, I want to pull out some gloss to kind of hold it down a bit. Let that adhere. And some weight on there. Just give that a minute or 2. Then I have, so I love this big hugs die. Like, look at how nice that is with the green, right? And then I had these. These are die cuts. So this is what I like to do. If I've got backgrounds, so I think, I don't know, did anybody, well, I mean, some of you have obviously watched the videos that I did with the, these are the Distress mica spray stains, and I just sprayed them. So these were panels that I wasn't super happy with how the color turned out, like to make it as a full background. Sorry, excuse me. But how cool are these as like die cuts, right? Like, so this was just the whole panel. So I've got these really cool, like orangey leaves, etc. Got a couple little green ones. So, all right. So I want to use this big hugs because I think that this kind of orangey, coppery color will play off really nice off of the greens. So I think that that's kind of stuck down now. So that's good. So what I would like to do is do my die, yeah, I'm going to do my die down here, but I want to have some of this foliage coming behind it. So I want to use a mixture of greens and the greens and the oranges, or the copperies colors. I need a pair of scissors here. Okay. So this is this huge die from Simon Says Stamp, and it's just gorgeous. And you can see, so you could use it on a 5x7 card, and it would be really, really lovely. And just, fill that whole thing out. But you can see it's just too big. So what I can do though is I can come in and give it a little bit of a haircut. Use a little trim right there to fit onto my panel, right? So if I were to go like that, okay, that's going to go nicely all the way up, and that can go there. Nope, might need to take it down a little bit more. And if I do that big hugs like that, look at how cool that is. Okay, so that's really cool. I like that. Now, the other thing that I could do, want to bring in some of this orange so that it's not just this one thing of green with this coppery colored. Just add in a few. I'm just going to play with these a little bit here. Oop, hiccup. Yeah. So if you do like that, and then I come in like that, I can have another one there. Like that. So that's 3, which is typically what I like to stick with, right? Because you want to have uneven numbers if need be. Because I think, right, if we start going down like that, that might be a little bit much. I might be able to tuck another green one. No, I think I like it just like that. Okay, so I'm going to move these off to the side here. These can be garbage. Okay, and I don't need, oh, we need that. Okay, so I'm going to stick down the big green one here first. Okay. So I'm going to lift it up like this, and I'm going to take a glue runner, and I'm just kind of going to run it along the stem. I don't necessarily need all of the other leaves to be stuck down. I just want the stem and probably a little bit of these bottom ones stuck down. And come from the edge here. I think that was kind of the area that I had it. Kind of like that. There. Okay, and I do have some glue squidging there, but I don't mind that because I do want to have a little bit of that sticking out. I don't really want to have to stick everything down super solidly, because I like leaves to look like they're lifted, right? Because they have some dimension, they have some texture. So, and I'm liking how that's going to cover the stems there. Yeah. Can I come up with that? Yes, I can. Woo! Liquid adhesive to the rescue. Let's get that leaf going way there. Okay. So if I put the G, like the hugs down here, see how it's going to cover those the stem areas there. Whoops, sorry. Move that up a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so I've got these kind of stem areas down here, and I want to hide those a little bit, not a ton, because obviously leaves have stems, so that's not the end of the world if they're not on there. But I also want to bring this in. So I think I like it. Yeah, if I'm looking at that, that looks really good. So I actually want to stick this to the back of here first. So I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive onto the front of the leaf so that I can manipulate it onto the back of this big. Like that. And I'm going to hold that just for a minute. Just a second while the Barely Art glue sets up. And then I'm going to come in a little bit of adhesive behind here. And I do want to make sure that I've got a decent coating behind this sentiment here, because there's going to be a lot of dimension sitting behind it now with these leaves and the stems, etc., etc. So I want to make sure that that is all going to stick down. And the cool thing about having all of this dimension down here at the bottom doesn't necessarily matter if my sentiment is straight or not, which is kind of nice because I didn't even look. I was just so busy making sure that it was covering up the stems of my leaves. I don't even think I looked to make sure that my stem was it was straight. That's kind of funny. Okay. So I'm just going to add that little bit of pressure there. Make sure that everything is sticking together. There we go. Okay, that should be adhered well enough now. Now look at how cool, right? I'm really happy with that. That's a really nice card. So, and then it's just got, I can put white in here, or this is definitely light enough that a person could write on this with dark blue or black ink would be perfectly fine. But sending big hugs, nice little pop of color on the green, but I've got this really nice textured. I don't know if you can see all the splatters from that. And I've got the different textures going from the different colors of the leaves in the background. There we go. So then with something like this big one here, I would likely just do a sentiment here. I could do something like along the bottom here, it's your birthday. That would work really well and be just done. I could put a couple of drops, a couple of jewel drops or Nouveau Art glitter drops or some pearls. But I think because this is such a shiny, so for example, in this particular one, because this is such a shiny sentiment and there's so much shine in the leaves and everything, I'm just going to leave that. I don't think I need to add little pearls or something like that on here. On this one, I could do a couple of drops here like that. That would work. Of some Nouveau drops, which will then, of course, pick up the colors underneath them. That would work. But yeah, that sentiment works there. You can do it up at the top too, if you wanted. Other thing is you could actually do this like this. Like, I mean, who knows that the flower has to be sitting that way? So you could certainly do it's your birthday like that. That works too. Then you've got all your beautiful color there. But I don't even mind it like this. That works good too. Or a simple sentiment strip, happy birthday, right across there. Works great. Okay. So again, that's going to be our video for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you really try it out if you've got oxides or any kind of reactive ink. Don't forget, it doesn't have to be oxides or like Ranger Distress inks. Any reactive ink that you have. So I have Elements, the Hero Hues by Hero Arts would work. The Lavinia Elements ones work. I don't know of any other ones off the top of my head, but those are the ones that I'm familiar with. So give them a try. And I mean, you can always take a scrap piece of paper and, just swatch them out like this, kind of, draw it on there, let it dry, and then try flicking some water spots on it to see if it will bleach. If it does, go ahead. That's a good, that means that it'll work. So give it a go because you just never know. Yeah, give it a try. And yeah, that's like I said, that's going to be the video for today, guys. I hope you had a great day. Please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Yeah, we continue to add a couple more each couple of days. And it's always wonderful to meet and hear from new people. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments down below. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.